rock star energy.
How do you all have energy on Sunday morning?
Yeah! It's important to get your 8 hours in, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
Also hydrate, also sanitize, also wash your hands.
All right, so welcome to our panel, from Jim Johnston to Koji Kondo, the intersection of video game and wrestling themes. So what is this panel about? The purpose of this panel is to draw comparisons between what makes good video game music and what makes good wrestling music. Now, I mean, this is really more of a music theory type panel, so who here is a fan of video games? Who here is a fan of wrestling? Who here likes music? Music theory, and it's really more of a lens for you to look through just how some of your favorite music works. So I think, with further ado, let's just introduce ourselves first. I am Eric Giovanni. I am a nerdcore punk musician who goes by the name Rhythm Bastard, and I am the composer for a little game called Retromania Wrestling. So if you might, who check out Retromania Wrestling? Nice. Who here loved the crap out of it? Unfortunately, the music was muted, but trust me, it is going to be baller, and you are going to get a little preview of all the music from that game here. And as determined by an actual harmonics employee, I am the swollest man in the rock band community. Yes, aforementioned harmonics employee is Robbie Russell. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I do QA harmonics. I've done that for about 4 years. I competed in the PAX Rumble and got screwed because they put me as Vince McMahon at #1 last year. I watch a lot of wrestling. I don't compose any music. I just talk a lot about it. Also, I don't know if y'all watched the Baby Fox episode of SmackDown. 4 seconds.
Yeah. All right, and of course, to my left, Megalovania, ladies and gentlemen.
So hey, Megalovania, teacher, rapper, huge wrestling fan for as long as I can remember. I've been lucky enough in the last couple of years to do some cool wrestling related things with like my brand of, I guess, nerdcore, hip hop. So I've done some stuff for AEW, ROH, and WWE that hasn't been released. I'm coming with that, maybe that'll come to fruition. And what else? I helped lead New Day in a victory against the Usos.
So tell us a little bit about that.
I don't think that was a victory at all. The Usos were straight.
Here's the thing, I had to pull up like certain facts for our slides, and I was like, you're also a Guinness World Record holder. Tell us a little bit about that.
Cool. I am a Guinness record holder for most video game remixes that are currently available on the internet. Now, that sounds ridiculous. I feel like they kind of made that for me. It's like, most remixes done after 3 p.m. on, Sunday or, at home. I don't know. So it's, it's for a specific game franchise, which is Mega Man. So there are currently about 117 Mega Man remixes that are done, which makes that far and away a record.
Just so we have a concrete number to work with. So, I mean, obviously, we're 3 very accomplished individuals in our respective fields.
I did nothing.
Listen, you QA test for harmonics. Harmonics makes some of our favorite games, and hopefully our new upcoming favorite game, Fuser. We're going to
Alright, wrestling fans, it's Sunday morning. Are you ready for a wrestling video game show? And we always do a panel on Sunday, so I'm so excited to be.
Pat,
What's up?
Hey. Yeah, hey. Pat, I'm really sorry, but just because this is Sunday morning, there's an employee from Harmonix and a guy named Eric with glasses up on stage. This is
Check holes, checks. Mega Rand's done the show before.
Yes, exactly, and Robbie as well. This is not a League of Heels thing.
Weird now.
I know.
There's like so many wrestling things like happening this weekend, and none of it was me.
No.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I just saw it on the schedule, and I was like, oh, That's what our show is. It's weird I didn't produce it since I do that. Oh, what?
Pat,
What's up?
you're free. This is a panel that you don't have to participate or run or anything.
Oh.
You can enjoy it like a regular person.
Oh, I'm gonna go sit in a chair and enjoy a panel at PAX? This is so weird.
You can kick back, you can have a drink, you can do whatever.
All right,
man.
yeah. So this is a wrestling and video game, like music, the
exactly.
commonalities and the things you maybe didn't think about. That's what this panel
Yes,
is gonna be about?
exactly. So,
Oh, that sounds awesome. All right, thanks so much, everybody. Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, give up to Pat Bear for some 11 panels as improvised post-mortem and Pat Bear's Anime Club. I am so far behind. Yeah, give it up for Pat Bear's Anime Club. I am really far behind on My Hero Academia, and I caught one episode of Keep Your Hands Off Isaacson. But I caught all of Tiger Mask W, so we're still keeping it relevant. And of course, Owen Douglas is recording, so thank you very much, Owen. So let's start out with the Koji Kondo portion of this panel. What makes good video game music, right? Art is subjective, there are no rules. But this is really, but just because there's a lot of our favorite video game soundtracks, they don't quite fit into what we're about to show you today, but this is just one way of looking at music. So what makes good wrestling music? And I guess that's a question we have to answer. So there are for most memorable wrestling themes, there are three parts: the hook, the riff, and the ride. And there is one wrestler in particular I think we can use as a case study to kind of put all three of these things on display, and his name is John Cena. And his name is John Cena! There we go, that's the important. I was making sure that didn't work. Alright, so part one, the hook. So the hook is supposed to grab the listener's attention. It is the warning signal for the particular wrestler, and you want to make sure that you elicit a holy shit reaction. It's supposed to be a gut reaction. You're supposed to get it from the audience, or, so for example, an old-timey telephone. So it's supposed to be a holy shit response. It's supposed to be immediately recognizable. And they're all looking at the cue cover. That was weird. So some good examples of the hook are, like I played earlier, the descending trumpets of John Cena's theme, the glass crash from Steve Austin's theme. And what are some of our favorite hooks in wrestling? What's like a sound that you immediately associate? Oh shit, they're coming.
It's gotta be, I mean, you mentioned the glass breaking for Stone Cold,
Yeah.
for sure. The Rock's always, if you smell, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get it. So yeah, once you hear that sound, normally it's like the entire crowd will like swell up for it. Mick Foley's car crash, you know.
Yes.
You know, once you hear that sound, there's a great formula, and it absolutely works, and it's worked throughout generations, which is, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Rob, any examples you got?
Bret Hart riff.
Yes.
That's a good one. As some of you heard coming in, Cult of Personality, it's not a proper wrestling theme, but it works as CM Punk's wrestling theme because you have that little riff of da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, right? I mean, usually there's like some other kind of static, or the swell of the violins for Ride of the Valkyries before Daniel Bryan comes out. That also works. So again, it's the hook. It's meant to grab your attention right away. Now, but you want that to stick in their head, and that is part two, the riff. There are plenty of good examples, and as I mentioned here, pretty much anything that was chosen for the Rock's with the WWE PAX, please make another one. Like Rock Band, they probably have a request feature that you can flood their mentions with.
Not on Twitter.
Yes. Do not ask them on Twitter. That is a douchebag maneuver. So now, what really works for a riff is if the audience can sing along with it in some respect, or like John Cena's example, you can interact it with some way. Like, John Cena sucks, John Cena sucks, John Cena sucks, but you at least remember John Cena because he's there. And again, like someone called Steve Austin, dun 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 dun. So we're gonna play a couple of those for you. In the meantime, while I'm gonna bring up a couple examples. If any of you guys got any good
Do
ones.
this mouth sound thing the whole time too.
I like when you mouth them, I do.
Yeah. No, I mean, the mouth examples work, and I think a good one of this is, I'm going to play Sami Zayn's theme, actually. This is actually by their in-house production through the CFO, but they seem to be but they seem to get this concept very well. Also, Shinsuke Nakamura. Yes, if you've ever heard Shinsuke Nakamura, his theme is primarily violin focused, but again, it gets the crowd singing along. Hold on, there we go.
Yeah. I mean,
So just keep it low enough so we can talk over it, yeah.
you want to do this part with the mouse out?
I think at a certain point, the audience is just going to go that. I mean, the audience always sings along to this part. And because Shinsuke Nakamura was just so over, they changed the Japanese, they like added Japanese lyrics over to it so people are, it's like harder for them to sing along. He's a bad guy now.
They made it just
Exactly. Right, so afterwards, so now the rest, so you've got their attention, you see the wrestler, you know they're coming, the audience is singing along to their theme, and now we're up to part 3, the ride. So obviously, once they've entered the ring, you're watching on TV, the announcers clearly need to do their job, tell you who they are, let them know the current storyline, etc., etc. So it has to still keep that same energy, but basically you just kind of let the beat ride. It's supposed to be the more subtle part of the song, so think of it like the bridge to the wrestler's introduction. It doesn't have to amp it up in a particular way, it just has to be subtle enough so that the announcers can do their job while still, keeping in character. So, I mean, there's really not much part of the ride that you can remember because it's not meant to be memorable. It's just supposed to keep the energy up.
In Cena's song, it's kind of different because it's just a traditional rap song. So I guess the verse is the ride.
Yeah,
because I noticed that they even have a volume boost when the chorus comes on that. So he waits for a certain musical cue,
right,
which is after his verse, to do a move or throw the hat into the crowd or
exactly
like that. So he's basically working on musical cues. But so the ride in that song would be the lyrical part. Yeah.
Right, the verse.
Which is a really underrated part of wrestling entrances, by the way. The amount of sheer choreography and actually timing everything to specific beats of their theme is imagine having to remember that and do it 300 nights a year and never mess it up. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, just even the simple thing of coming out at the right time adds so much to a theme song. As you were hearing in Shinsuke Nakamura's theme, when that little violin slide, that's when he grabs onto the ropes of the ring and just starts to bend back. I'm going to fall off.
Yeah, if you did that at the wrong time, it just wouldn't be as effective. If you just jumped out at the hook, it would change the reaction totally.
Right.
So you wait a while to come out.
Yeah,
there's an art to it.
And how can we apply this to video games? So wrestling, like video games, is something of an art form where you need to consider the person on the other side, so to speak, the person receiving the art, for lack of a better term. For video games, you need to consider the player. For the wrestler, you need to consider the audience. So we can apply this to video games because we do want to provoke a certain reaction from the player when they hear their music. So I'm just going to turn down Shinsuke Nakamura. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I love that song too, but we do have a rest of the panel to get to. So how can we apply this to video games? Now, in a way, we can sort of transfer it the same way. The hook to grab the player's attention, the riff to get them excited and pumped, and then the ride to set the rhythm for the rest of gameplay. So, I mean, any particular video game themes just stand out to you. What are some of the greatest of all time that even then you're like, oh, you can immediately recognize it?
Oh man, Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, Super Mario Brothers,
It's
obviously.
got the hook, it's got the riff of the ride. It's the perfect example, I think, because it has all the same elements.
Right.
Grabs you immediately, first few notes, you know what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that applies because it also, imagine Mario Brothers with a different kind of music or with no music at all.
I talked about that on a panel at MagFest we were doing with Mason Lieberman, and he talked about how licensing rights are so difficult to keep and sustain throughout the years. And he talked about how like the current he's like, what would happen if we made a new Super Mario Brothers or new Super Mario Odyssey, and there was no iteration of or and I was like, I think it'll be fine. And he's like completely disagreed. He was like, no, the internet would go nuts if they played through the entire Super Mario game and never got any reference to any of the older games. And then I thought about it, like, it would seem weird without it.
And I think one nice flourish that some people miss in Jump Up Superstar from Super Mario Odyssey, that like bridge when it goes Odyssey, Odyssey, it's the theme to that do 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 from Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think this comparison would be made a little bit easier if we had a better frame of reference. Like, for example, was there any wrestler who used a video game theme as a wrestling entrance at any point?
I
don't know, I just can't think of anything like that. Who could it have been? Oh, listen, I think the hardest part of this panel was just setting up the timing for all of these little bits. But yes, Kenny Omega, the infamous Halloween episode when he came out as Sans from Undertale. So let's talk about Megalovania from Toby Fox. Who here has played Undertale? Of course, that has some very good music on it, and it definitely applies to all the things we have summed up here. So,
Fun fact, I only did a true pacifist run of this game, so I never heard Megalovania, and I never will because I refuse to hurt those darling angels.
they are all special in their own way. So Megalovania definitely fits into the pattern we've established here. The hook, it's, when you hear those 4 notes, it's been memed to hell. Like, someone will just start playing a piece on the piano, then go to that do-do-do-do, and it's like, okay, that's the joke. So the hook, it sets up this sinister tone to set up Sans' heel turn. The riff, you know it all well. And the ride of Megalovania, it's 5-minute song. And the main difference in video game music is that it's required to keep your attention a little bit longer than the minute or so than a wrestling theme is supposed to. Because yes, there are full wrestling themes that are about 3 or 4 minutes long, but with a video game, your gameplay could be much longer than that. So the good thing about Megalovania is that it rides back and forth between these very, not quite calmer parts, but they just allow different instruments to take the lead, and it varies it up in intensity. This panel contains spoilers for Undertale. Yeah, I mean, it's been 5 years, and to play it clean now is just impossible. But I think composition has worked differently throughout the eras, and we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about how it's worked. So during the cartridge era, a lot of the music and sound were made by generating tones at sequence pitches and waveforms. So I think the one that most people do know about is the original Nintendo system, where it had 2 channels for square wave sound, 1 channel for triangle wave sound, and 1 channel that just generated noise. And those are the only things that could be playing at any time. So they focused a lot more on simple melodies. Like, we all know the Super Mario Brothers theme, the Tetris theme, most Mega Man themes. So therefore, they had to be good, catchy in that way. And I think Koji Kondo actually is notorious for having a lot of hooks in it. So I'm just going to play a couple Super Mario Brothers. Let me just find a couple good ones here. Here we go.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Dr. Wily's theme works. So, I mean, it's got that little fast riffs, and then it's gonna come, and the riff is gonna come in where you can all sing along to it. So what are some other, good songs from the cartridge era that sort of apply to the rubric that we've presented here?
I mean, everything in that song, really.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure Ren would back me up on that one.
Absolutely. I didn't want to be completely biased biased. I'm glad you put Mega Man in there.
I was literally playing ZX Admin waiting for this panel to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, mostly, especially Mega Man 2, like they do such a really good job with that.
Yeah.
Grab you with the hook immediately. I think, gosh, I had one in mind and I just forgot it. It'll come back.
Yeah, so
the theme to Pictionary on NES.
okay. I'm gonna bring up that one actually because I'm glad you did it. I think the composer's name is Tim Fallon, I want to say, and he also did.
Genius.
Oh God, yes. Let me just. It's like he went to, hey bro, you gotta do Pictionary. I'm like, I got you, fam.
It's the coolest game of Pictionary you ever play.
Yeah, so, man, I don't have it here, but another good one is, and it's also by Koji Kondo, the overworld theme from Legend of Zelda. So, let's see. The hook. Obviously setting you up for some kind of epic adventure.
This is specifically the Hyrule Warriors version, which is just let's add a guitar and some drums.
Right, we don't have the NES version on the sound bank here, but the rules still apply. Koji Kondo did write it. It's just that we add orchestration. So that we're gonna go into that later in the later areas of development. Right? Let's see what else we got here. So now eventually, hold on. Here's one more from Kirby. This is the Super Smash Bros. 64 version. Yes.
Yeah.
I can't. That is stuck in my head now. I can't hear it any other way. Right. So now, eventually, the CD-ROMs were invented, and what this allowed was for the composer to just straight up put music files onto the into the game without having to rely on what he could do with the technology. Now he can incorporate all kinds of orchestrations, crescendos. You can just do so much more when you can have an orchestra to work with and only have to worry about getting it onto making it fit on the CD. And I think, with the PlayStation 1 era and the CD-ROM era, it has created music that I think definitely inspired me to write music. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1.
Yeah.
Yes, but also Final
My
Fantasy
favorite game composer, Goldfinger.
Unless, like me, you had the Nintendo 64 version, so you only had the first verse and chorus. I didn't know Police Truck by the Dead Kennedy had words. For the longest time. But I think the thing we're all thinking of is, of course, the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack. Let's see, the battle theme for those who fight further. Let me just look that up right now. You guys can go with this. Hold on, let me get
If I didn't know any better, I would literally think this is from the soundtrack of WrestleMania 2000.
This sampling is about that same rating.
Close your eyes, you can see some wrestling happening. Yeah, here comes me.
Oh my God, it's Viscera!
I can't remember.
I think in WrestleMania 2000 it was Viscera.
Alright. Was maybe in that name?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Right. Okay, let me just see if there's any good ones from that era here. Of course, the ultimate heel move. And making his way to the ring now, Sephiroth!
And also Kenny Omega again?
You're not wrong. So I think we're talking about video game songs that were in the 2000 era as wrestling theme. Let me just bring it up here.
Everyone's favorite butt rock song.
Yes, the other world of Final Fantasy absolutely don't know. Right now we're into the part of it. He's got a nice little shot.
It's just so good.
Yeah, oh man, I can imagine tons of high school guitarists. come to modern gaming, and I mean, modern gaming soundtrack is probably the best they've ever been because they mostly fall in one of two camps. For the indie developers, they can make things sound like the cartridge era did, but they can also include all the orchestral flourishes that they have in the modern CD era. Like, for example, Shovel Knight is a good example because you cannot do Shovel Knight on an original Nintendo cartridge because the NES technology did not support things like parallax scrolling or that many sound channels. So I'm gonna play the intro theme to Shovel Knight right now because let's face it, they're probably gonna have DLC Shovel Knight for like some wrestling game. Someone's going to do it. Here's the hook. Very important because it signals when the hook is over and gives the audience some time to react before they go into the riff. Right? Shovel Knight, incredible game.
Yes.
And for AAA developers, because of the advances in technology, the Xbox One, the PS4, and just so much disk space and hardware power available, they can create adaptive and dynamic themes. Like my favorite video game soundtrack, and it doesn't fall into this category, but hey, listen, not all soundtracks do, is the soundtrack to SSX3 and I think the 2012 version of SSX.
We don't talk about that one.
No, that game was actually legit good. It's on tour is the one that we don't talk about.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Three of those like top 3 games of all time.
Same here. But that's the thing, that's adaptive and dynamic. What SSX3 does, and I think Sunset Overdrive, for a more recent example, is that it layers each part of the song depending on what you're doing. So for SSX3, when you're going off a huge jump and you're just in there in the air suspended and doing all your tricks and stuff, the rest of the song drops out, leaving just the faintest hint of the beat and the bass. And then when you come back down, the song kicks in again. So it like the best example of this is when like the song "Good Times" by Finger 11, and like so you'd be like, "Careful when you feel," and that's like one of my favorite moments of gaming, like just soundtrack wise. My other well, listen, someone's got to bring it back. We'll bring it back. Finger 11 to 2020. We're all. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. I wish I could inspire just a really breakdown of a wrestling chant because that also works. So, for example, most one is the 1, 2, 3 rest, 1, 2, 3 rest, going in a 4/4 beat. And some of the more popular ones that involve clapping is 4 syllables, clap, 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 clap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's give some examples, shall we?
I mean, I think the most popular chant in wrestling right now is just New Day Rocks.
Of course. Day rocks. New Day rocks. New Day rocks. New Day rocks. Unfortunately, we cannot get Xavier Woods. I'm sorry.
It's a busy man.
I'm sorry. So another one that actually kind of works, and just with the dynamics involved, I believe, Robbie, you told me about this one, the game Hades by Supergiant.
Also, any Supergiant game is amazing in this.
All right, so let's see. Scourge of the Furies is a good one. What was the timestamp you told me in rehearsal?
Are you going to ask me to remember that? Like half? What is half?
Okay, half sounds good. Anyway, we're going to skip over that. But yeah, so I mean...
Go buy the game, you can just trust me on that one. It's really good.
Yeah. So now, while modern game soundtracks have gotten really good, you can buy them on vinyl now, they sell them on vinyl, because you want to preserve them in oil quality. The wrestling video games, however...
It's got its own charm, if you think about it.
So, we've had this GIF looping during tech checks, and you just see a new thing in real time.
Yeah. Oh God, why is he jumping on the bottom rope like that?
And as a QA tester, I feel sorry for, like, all of this was probably known, and they had to ship without doing anything. Like, they're like, don't let QA.
but like, who here's heard of the YouTube channel Matt McMuscles? A couple people, yeah. So he has a series called What Happened, where he just goes, he goes behind the scenes and tells you all the information of these notoriously bad games and why they're terrible and why they failed. And a lot of it is because they gave us literally no time and money. Like Superman 64 was bad because they had to fight with the publisher that no, Superman can swim underwater because they didn't like the current developer. That is absolutely nuts.
I was going to say, I don't know if anyone's played the new WWE 2K20. It's not this glitchy anymore, but it's still not good.
That anymore is carrying a lot of weight. If only there was a wrestling video game coming out in 2020 that Retromania Wrestling.
Yes. What a natural setting.
Oh my God. Yes, that is a very good segue. So this is the self-promotion part of the show where I talk about, no, don't scoff.
I'm not scoffing.
Okay, good. So,
I am mistaken.
yes, so this is the self-promotion part of the show where I talk a little bit about composing some of the themes for Retromania Wrestling. So now this song that I have a couple requirements for is because I did do this under contract from a developer. So each song had to evoke a retro feel. Retromania Wrestling is the official sequel actually to WWF WrestleFest. Who remembers that game, anybody? Yes. Yeah, yes, beloved arcade game. So they still had to evoke that feel. Each song had to be approximately 15 seconds. And as you've learned here, the songs were a lot longer than 15 seconds. But it was a challenge and I accepted it. And each song had to loop. The songs we played for you had a definitive ending. So, now, all right, so I'm just gonna play a couple songs for you first. So just some of the ones I'm actually a little proud of. So this one is for, let me see here. Let's go with Johnny Retro. Or Johnny Morrison, you just signed up to the
Johnny Impact.
Hold on, damn it, why does it keep, hold on. So this is the theme song to Austin Idol. If we can just get it up a little bit. All right, let me just play that one from the beginning. So for this one, the only frame of reference I had for this was that I think as like a promo or something, Austin Idol got a band to cover, what is it, Wild Thing? And that's the only frame of reference I had. So to have it loop was, I had to like drop out, you heard those like dun, 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 and that beat was all I had for that. So that, and now that would lead right into, hold on, I'm getting a little cross-eyed, there we go. Okay. Now then of course the riff kicks in, very inspired by Wild Thing. Now because of this, I didn't quite have the ride, but I just had to make the songs go down in a way that they could easily loop in. So here we go, it's about to start over again. So that was pretty much seamless because I allowed the beat to drop and just allowed those kick drums to keep going. So this one, recently Retromania Wrestling had what they called Indie Mania. And they had, I believe, 32 indie stars from all over various independent promotions, and they were picked by the fans and they were voted on by the fans. And the eventual winner of that was a Warhorse. Anybody who knows Warhorse in here?
Oh, yeah.
All right, we got a couple ones, yes. Warhorse does rule ass.
He does.
Yeah, so to do that one, I straight up asked him, like, hey, what do you usually do? Because I couldn't find anything. He's like, I usually come into the Four Horsemen by Metallica. So I was like, hey, thanks. That song actually kind of works. So this is Warhorse's theme for Retromania Wrestling. Obviously, the hook was those word descending words from Warhorse. And because, so that was another one where I required it to loop, is that I led the ending to be the new beginning of the hook again. So sometimes that was one of the ways I solved the challenges of, hey, all of these songs have to be 15 seconds and they have to loop. which, as you've seen from the panel, would be very difficult to do for a video game theme and a wrestling theme. And I'm just gonna play one more here. Let's see. Johnny Retro, okay.
Yeah.
Now, he doesn't really have any to go by, but, you know, we got this nice opening. He's just the longest I put the most time into because he is the star of the story mode of Retromania Wrestling. But, you know, this is just a nice hook that I wrote a guitar and then recreated.
Yeah, I can see it's actually coming out of the camera.
And sometimes it was like, hey, I just had it end, and because like the Johnny Retro theme, the same riff just kept going on through and through the song, and I just like, okay, let me add a drum beat. Oh, wait a second, the same riff at the beginning is the same riff at the end. I'm just gonna drop the drum beat, and it sounds like it's starting over again. So here's what I used to make the soundtrack. For the bass line and synthesizer effects, I used a program called Jenny VST. It is a sound, yeah, so I see some of you are taking pictures of that for future reference. It samples a lot of the instrument library from the various Sega Genesis games like Earthworm Jim, Sonic the Hedgehog. Sometimes it just has good bass sounds that you can recreate within the Sega Genesis technology. For live guitar, I used the GH2 amp simulator. It lets you like simulate a lot of different amps for a lot of different styles, and you can even place it in different. You can also change up what kind of pedal you use, where you place the recording mic. So it's very powerful technology. For live drums, Manda Audio NT powered drum kit. It's a free software you can use. It's very versatile and has a pretty good sound to it. You can also mix it and pan it within the VST itself. And for the 8-bit drum effect and some of the bass lines I did use for the 8-bit effects, the Tweakbench series. I believe it's Toad, Tweakbench Peach, and Tweakbench Triforce. I think I got them when they were free. You might have to pay them like $3 now, but that is what I used to recreate all of the sounds.
Question. I see that you did entrance stuff. Is there like during like in-match music?
Yes, there is some in-match music, and I think the one that got Mike, the guy who did the who is in charge of Retromania Wrestling, to pretty much fall in love with me, is the menu music I did for him. So let me just scroll down to that. I'm not seeing. Oh, here it is. So we still got that hook. You still got that nice chugging riff. And now this song is supposed to be a minute long, and there's really no talking over there's really no place to talk over it. It's a pretty sedate song otherwise. But again, this isn't really meant to, hype you up at all. You're still supposed to, there's still that hook to grab your attention, but it's just supposed to be like non-invasive enough so that you can look through the options of the game and be like, oh, okay, I want to pick this mode without feeling like, oh crap, I don't have any pressure on you. So it's both intense and chill in its own way. And it's achieved some kind of zen.
Did he send you the track I did for Retromania?
No, I didn't.
I should have told you that.
He did tell me about that, but I didn't receive it, so unfortunately we're not going to do it.
There's a title track that I did for Retromania, which he's playing at the booth. So if you go on, it's been on loop the entire weekend. So if you head over there and play, you'll hear a couple riffs by myself and producer G1 to the rescue helped me out with that. He did a couple tracks for me that we did with AEW. And so he asked me to sample the original title theme from WrestleFest. I don't know if you remember it, but it's definitely like Genesis style sounding. And so we sampled it, we did it, and I liked it. And then he's like, hey, I don't know if I have the rights to use this. So can we remix it? So then we did a remix. And so now we have two versions. I'm not sure which one's gonna run there. But at the booth, he's playing the original, which samples the WrestleFest theme. So check that out.
Yeah, I was unsure about announcing that and making that public because it's like, well, we don't know if we have the rights to clear the samples yet. So,
but we did two versions. So one way it's happening, one way.
Yeah, so you are going to hear Mega Ran in Retromania Wrestling. Yes. I'm just going to play. So, and of course, there's like certain ones behind the story, and that was just me like jamming. Oh, here we go. Can you turn it up a bit? So this is one of the songs that's supposed to be playing when you're fighting. And if you remember the old Aki, and for inspiration, I used some of the old Aki engine wrestling games that came out for the Nintendo 64 because there we go. So depending on what arena you use, it would play like a little song to have on the background. And again, this one is supposed to be more hype. I got a lot of inspiration from RPG battle themes. So yes, you are supposed to be kicking ass when this music is playing. Please do. Unfortunately, they have it muted at booth. But we did play the game, and it was a lot of fun.
It's really fun. I like that he added some really cool things that weren't in the original. Like you can fight on the apron, diagonal, like throwing the ropes and the turnbuckles.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to update a game. You want, the old school feel and appearances, but modern contrivance.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it was like Brian Eno who said, once we're like past the point where we don't need to have things the way they are anymore, then people will just be like, you know what, I am totally gonna cop that shit. I am of course paraphrasing that, and chances are Brian Eno didn't even say that quote, but just look it up. I'm not gonna look it up now. Fact checking will ruin this panel. So Mega Rant, now we're gonna talk a little bit about using wrestling music to serve another purpose. You actually made not one, not two, but 3 albums.
I love wrestling, and just in the same way that I love video games. And the way I got started with that was remixing my favorite game themes. So we would take Dr. Wily's theme, Mega Man 2, and that, and I was like, oh well. If I was telling the story of Dr. Wily, it'd be, I was played, I was lied to, unappreciated for all the good I do. It's what we chilled and I tried to. Now it's all about survival, crushing my rivals, you know what I mean? So taking that and turning it into a rap was a little easy because it was a great melody. So I thought, well, what would happen if I did that with rap? And so like we took the New Day's theme, and we did that a little earlier, but can you give me a little New Day? Can you give me a little? We just tell me what you want to do because we still everybody know the new. Okay. So all these ideas were coming just from the tracks and the things. So most of them were like Attitude Era things, and but then like there were a lot of new themes that I liked. And as I started doing a podcast and watching wrestling so much more, the music that the CFOs were doing started to inspire me. So I worked on the first Matt Mania album, and from there started traveling to WrestleMania and talking to folks, and even like wrestlers who had heard my versions of their themes, and they were just like, man, this is so good, like I wish they would allow me to use it. And TJ Perkins was one guy who went I don't know if you remember his theme.
Yeah,
you got it
I actually
there?
have it on.
We got to talk about that because
Yep.
TJ's a gamer, and they totally were thinking, all right, Dr. Wily, let's do it, but not do it. And this is such a good theme. Here it is.
Hook. So now I know you also work, and I don't think I wasn't able to download on the phone, but and you actually mentioned Pictionary. There was another game that same composer worked with called Solstice, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another Tim Fallon one. So when TJ asked me to do a theme for him for Impact, he told me that he wanted something video gamey. And Tim Fallon, again, Pictionary, Solstice. Did he do Marble Madness? No, I don't think so. There's a couple other ones where he just did these elaborate, rich themes for like the simplest games. Like it was really weird, but they were so
he
good.
didn't need to go that hard on Pictionary.
No, but his themes are amazing. Just you gotta look them up. And you don't have Solstice there?
I thought I
It's
did.
incredible. So you owe it to yourself to check out Solstice. It's a good one. Are you not online? Are you able to like grab it?
I can go on the Google Drive if you buy me like 1 minute of time.
Gotcha. So TJ was like, yo, if you could mess with some video game stuff, preferably 8-bit, and flip it into a song, that would be great. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So I asked him, have you ever heard of a game called Solstice? And he's like, no, not at all. But I'm like, the music's great, so I sent him the track, and he's like, what? And so we started sampling it, and we did a track for him for Impact and New Japan. So when he pops up on those different shows, you may hear my voice behind those. And yeah, it was really fun to try to create that and to work on something that was would capture what he wanted, but also like a retro but current feel. And so yeah, we did 2 drafts of it, and he absolutely loved it. And told me that some of the other guys, apparently a lot of wrestlers are gamers, but there's just so much crossover there, which is great. That one of the guys backstage heard his theme, and they were like, where did you get that? That's Solstice. And he's like, I guess.
I do have Solstice queued up.
That was cool. You got it?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Oh, this is a fun little medieval game I believe we're playing. Yeah, this is just pretty basic. So. He didn't need to go that hard, but he did.
He did Silver Surfer as well, which is a bad game with amazing music. Yeah. Oh man.
The thing is, he didn't need to go that hard, but he did.
No man, this guy goes hard.
And this was made with the NES.
Yeah.
All right. So what have we learned? And we'll have time for questions, and of course, goofing around where we just kind of jam out to our favorite songs. Otherwise,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much. So what have we learned? Give the listener something to take away. As you've learned, the main thing here is the hook. So you want something memorable, and if you can't remember it, then the listener isn't going to remember it. So you want to have a riff or just a hook or something you can hum to. So when you're writing a video game track or a wrestling theme or just any music in general, make sure that there is a part that you listen to and like, oh, okay, this is the part I can sing along to. This is the part I remember. Number 2, buy Retromania Wrestling. You can pre-order it now. Kofi got robbed. I didn't really watch my wrestling watching, and yes, Kofi did get robbed, or at least have a match longer
How do you
than.
go from the most inspirational moment in WrestleMania history to just like, oh, the ratings, let's just get the big pump and, ruin 6 months worth of story. We're a big old rock laser.
Bork Laser. God damn it, Vince McMahon, Bork Laser must go over, god damn it. Number 4, insert reference to last night's pay-per-view.
Anyone watch Revolution? Hell yeah. So we can all stop pretending Orange Cassidy can't wrestle now, right? Like, scissors out. Alright, Duke can go. Is anyone here like local? Yeah. Have you ever gone to a Beyond Wrestling show? Yeah. Yeah, you know.
Are you gonna say something?
Cody's tattoo, eh?
Oh yeah, that was weird. Do we want to talk about that?
I saw Jordan Holtz from the YouTube series 2 Minutes to Late Night saying, like, as soon as he got that was Thursday. That's not enough time to let the tattoo heal. He's gonna get that thing infected.
Are you implying it's gonna look better in a week?
It's gonna look, you won't get infected or reduces risk of infection.
I mean, he's Dusty's kid. Like, he's got to have some kind of like physical body work going on in every match. It's how he looks.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And of course, the last point, Sans Undertale is the key to everything. So I thank you all for coming. I mean, honestly, if you have any questions or really, if either of us here have any like songs we just want to, jam out to.
Jam out.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of good stuff.
Do we have Jake the Snake's theme on there?
What's that?
Do we have Jake the Snake Roberts on there?
No, we don't.
Oh,
That
it's
was
the
one of the
most
ones.
underrated wrestling theme of all time.
Yeah, so one song I do have and I do want to play, that actually does kind of fit in with our butt rock theme.
Oh, we had a butt rock theme?
Well, yeah, Other World from
Oh,
Final Fantasy
yeah.
10, and we got another one playing. good song. Alright. You know what? Let's bring it if you have any questions or just any comments, feel free to line up right there. We got 8 minutes. Alright, yes. Hello.
Are you really gonna hype up Pictionary this much and just not play it?
Now we got YouTube. We're gonna let that play in the background while the next one is playing.
Give it a few seconds to like breathe, because you're never gonna imagine this is a Pictionary theme.
This is the title track. In your mind's eye, just close your eyes, picture the game, and ignore Pictionary. I'm imagining like cyber motorcycles and like pseudo 3D effects. This is Alright, here's another, hold on, one more. Go that hard. Yes, next question.
It is beautiful music. Question for Megan. If you had the opportunity to cover a song from the classic wrestling album, Pile Driver, what would it be?
Wow.
And why would it be Stand Back Right
I was between that and Eat Your Heart Out, Rick Springfield. Oh wait, was that the wrestling album or not? That was the wrestling album, not Pile Driver. Jimmy Hart does a great song, Eat Your Heart Out, Rick Springfield, which I used to just run around my house singing. But the Bret Hart was great. But the Vince McMahon. There's a lot of very good and terrible tracks of Pile Driver.
And the music video is the dance.
Yeah, the dance.
I know it's not on Pile Driver, but could you do a cover of Be a Man?
How about just the whole Macho Man rap?
Yeah, it's a great album. Yeah, I play that every tour. Like I put it on because someone in the car has always never heard it. So by the time we get to Perfect Friend, they're
Turns out they call him Savage because it's got bars.
Savage Birds. You know what? Be a Man is actually a really good
You know, it's the best Hulk Hogan diss track I've ever heard.
I might need to update that. Hogan still needs some dissonance. So I'm gonna
Let me cue that and hold the next when we get the next question. Yes.
I have a question for Megalovania. So what was it like being at Madison Square Garden last year for G1 Supercard and then having Bully Ray crash your party?
Oh my gosh. So for those who don't know, I wrote a song for Ring of Honor for their show at Madison Square Garden. Their theme was Going to the Garden. So I wrote a song called Going to the Garden. And I think the song's pretty darn cool. And they were like, you're gonna come to MSG and perform it. And I was like, what? And then they're like, but you're gonna get interrupted. So Bully Ray, also was, of Ray Dudley, interrupts and like shoves me around the ring. And but there's no feeling like 30,000 people booing the shit out of you. Like I've never experienced anything like that. One thing, as a longtime wrestling fan, I know one thing we hate, and you probably should have talked about this, live music performances at wrestling events. So yeah, they never go over well. I mean, you could put Bruce Springsteen in front of a wrestling crowd. I don't know, and they boo it.
If Flo Rida can't get it over, who can?
Flo Rida or Pitbull, you can't do it. So the moment I come out, I'm like, hello, Madison Square Garden, I'm gonna do a song. Boo! I'm just like, oh wow. I don't want this at all.
So Garden Carter was so booted, it was like, everybody gets a free puppy!
Right.
And so I was cheering for you.
You were? Thank you. You're the one. Thank you.
Bully Ray was faced for just the
little bit.
So at some point, you just gotta just take it, you know. And I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna turn this crowd around. So I'm in the middle of the ring and I'm talking to the bully and I'm like, hey man, I used to watch WCW. I'm from Philly, man. And New York's like, I was like, you know what? Let's just keep it going. And I just kind of embraced it. And at that point, it was really fun to get a reaction, but man, it was terrifying. Because even backstage, he told me, he's like, they're gonna want me to kill you. They're gonna say, bully, kill him. And I'm like, all right, well, put me through a table. And he's like, nah, you ain't signed a waiver, you're not going. So I couldn't go through a table. So, but it was so much fun, but man, terrifying at the same time. Like even when I left and was walking the streets of Manhattan after the show, we were still going. Sorry, guys. So yeah, don't play a live show at a wrestling event.
Apparently, you know what? Retromania has to deal with NWA, and like, listen, modern day Billy Corgan is a very long distance away from Siamese Dream, Smashing Pumpkins Billy Corgan, but I wouldn't say no because technically, if I'm working with Retromania, who works with NWA, by proxy, I'm working with Billy Corgan, so get that. Alright, so thank you everyone for coming. I'm Eric. You can find me on Twitter at Rhythm Bastard. You can find all my music at rhythmbastard.rocks. I'm going to be playing a show in Miami, opening up for a band called All Hail the Mustache in a couple weeks. Also, I play a lot of conventions in the Florida area, just look me up there. Robbie!
Yeah, you can follow me at VMTV on Twitter. I mostly just shitpost about wrestling and whatever video game I'm playing at the moment. It's not exactly exciting. But yeah, if you want to hear me scream about how good AEW is. And shameless plug, check out Fuser.com to learn about the cool ass game we announced this week.
And last but not least, Megalovania.
Hey guys, I'm at Megalovania.com or at Megalovania on Twitter. It looks like Meg Ryan, if you want us to put it together like that. Yeah, I know. Also, let's see, I'll be back in Boston next month, Sunday the 29th at the Middle East. If you're in town, come through for that. And I have the clearance to announce that I'll be touring in May with MC Frontalocks. So that's gonna be really fun. And what else? I'm going with the Joko cruise next week. And I'm extremely, cautiously, optimistically excited. So I can't wait. But yeah, we got another panel at 3 p.m. the NPC, 30 People of Color. So come through and see that if you can. And if you see me on the floor, give me a wave and a high five.
Well, it's not technically a League of Heels panel. 3 years ago, I remixed one of my songs for League of Heels using like the N64 soundtrack called Fire in the Hole. And I'm just going to play that because when they played it at the PAX Mania show, the audio was poor. And with that, thank you all.